planning the next thing, the next trip, the next milestone, planning the next version of your life that's finally going to feel like enough. But underneath all that planning, you have a belief that you have never quite said out loud. And that is that peace is something you get to have later. You haven't said that. That wanting more and being fully at peace with where you are right now are two things that simply cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Do you think that wanting more and being at peace with what you have are two things that can't exist or coexist? What if they can?
Welcome to Wealth and Wisdom Together. I am Weslia.
And I am Willa. Now, 5 years ago, two accredited financial counselors,
Yes,
raise your hand, started this podcast
Yes,
for
we did.
one reason. The women we were serving in our coaching practice deserved a conversation that saw them fully, saw their faith, their purpose, their calling, and their money. 5 seasons later,
Yes.
that mission has not changed.
No, it hasn't. And today we are closing out the Contentment series. In episode 142, we defined what contentment actually is.
Yeah.
Not complacency, not settling, not the absence of ambition. In episode 143, we went deeper and named discontentment as a lying spirit that has been running your finances from the inside. And both of those episodes were necessary, but they left a question on the table.
Yeah. Knowing those things isn't the same as living those things, because the weak gets loud, the comparison comes back, the restlessness, it returns, and you find yourself reaching for the same choice all over again and wondering why it doesn't stick.
So true. And that is not failure.
Now, that's the difference between a choice and a practice. And that right there is what today is all about. In part 3 of our contentment series, we're answering the question the last 2 episodes were always building toward. How do you actually learn to be content? Not perform it, not reach for it in the hard moments, but live from it.
That is the question, and today we are answering it.
Listen, if you have been walking this journey with us, thank you so much, truly. And if this show has been adding value, I would love it if you like and subscribe to our podcast. It helps us reach more women who are ready to stop settling and stop striving and start really actually living.
Yeah.
Now, even when you've chosen contentment, even when you've done the work of reorganizing the lie and fighting back, there's a belief running underneath the surface that quietly undermines the whole thing.
Say it.
You know, and that belief is that peace and progress are in competition. That if you are truly at peace with where you are, with your income, peace in your season, your current financial picture, you are somehow releasing your grip on everything you are still building toward. That being grateful and being hungry for more are two things that just cannot live in the same house. It's not true, y'all.
It's feeling like you have to choose between peace or progress.
Or gratitude or growth.
And this is not the same thing as discontentment. This is not the lying spirit that we named in episode 143. This is actually a construct, a false framework. And I believe is doing damage that is very specific and real.
Because when you believe that peace and progress can't coexist, every season of building feels like a season of restlessness. Every goal on the horizon makes the present feel like a waiting room. Like, when am I going to get there? You really are just waiting to arrive somewhere safe enough to finally rest.
But we believe you were never meant to choose. It's not binary, peace or progress. That is more from the culture that needs you to stay restless. The culture that profits when the present never feels like it's quite enough.
Yeah. The feeling you are actually chasing with every next thing is not the thing. It is the peace you believe the thing will finally give you, the arrival, the enough.
Mm-hmm.
What you are running toward, you are already standing in it.
Which means that the work is not to get somewhere new. The work is to learn how to stand in it, and that is a practice. Before we go further, if what you just heard landed somewhere real, I want to make sure that you know that Trinity Financial Coaching exists for exactly this moment. The introductory call is a real conversation with a real coach, no pressure, no shame, about where you are right now and where you want to go. And then we help you build the path. So book your call at www.mytfcoach.com and click the book an introductory call link.
So, what is that practice actually built on? Because a framework without a foundation is just a good feeling that can fade.
Let's build that foundation. Contentment is not the roof of your life, it's the floor.
Say a little bit more about that.
Okay. In Matthew 7, Jesus tells the story of two builders. One builds on rock, on his word, on his teaching, and one builds on sand, on what the culture says about their worth, their success. When the storms come, and they do, the house on rock stands. Not because nothing hard happened, but because the foundation held.
Okay. And when you're building your life, your financial decisions, your goals, your identity as a steward on Christ and on who he says you are, contentment is not something you have to manufacture.
Right.
It flows
Yes.
directly from that foundation. It is the fruit of building on that rock that he's talking about.
100%. And the absence of it, the restlessness, the never enough, the persistent ache, even when the numbers are right, that is the signal that something in the foundation has shifted, that you have started building on sand again, on comparison, on external markers, on a version of success that was never yours to begin with.
And I want to show you what that looks like on both ends. Contentment without fulfillment. On the outside, it looks peaceful, stable, fine. But underneath, there is a calling being quieted. A God-sized dream, really, y'all, is being talked down because somewhere along the way, you've convinced yourself that being grateful means exactly staying where you are. That wanting more is somehow ungrateful. That pursuing the vision on your heart is not spiritual enough.
But listen, contentment is never designed to be a lid on your potential. God does not call you into purpose and then penalize you for pursuing it. This is not the character of God that we serve. Because his word tells us that faith without works is dead. So there is something that he wants us to do. We don't just sit there and become complacent.
And now, then there's the other side. That's fulfillment without contentment. Okay, so you're achieving, you're moving, you're producing, doing everything right on paper, but you never actually land anywhere. Because there's always another level, another milestone, another version of success that's just slightly out of reach. And you can get there. And when you do, you're exhausted and you feel empty. But the whole time you were running from something, you were not running towards something.
That sounds like you win, but it still doesn't feel like winning.
So, what creates the condition where both are available at the same time? How do we do that?
I wholeheartedly believe that it's alignment. And you've heard us mention it before. When what you are building actually reflects who you are, what you value, and what God has placed in your heart for this season, contentment is not the ceiling. It is the ground beneath your feet. And
Yes,
from
I
that
like
ground, fulfillment is not something you chase. It's something you build toward from a place of wholeness.
And that changes everything about how you pursue. The pace changes, the decisions change, the way you show up to your goals change. Because you're not driven by lack anymore. You are led by purpose.
And you're not chasing to fill a void.
You're building from overflow.
And that's why border one of our 4 borders of financial fulfillment is alignment. And it is first by design. You cannot experience financial fulfillment if what you're building does not reflect who you actually are and what you actually value. Repetition is key here. Repetition is key here because we want we want to make sure that you get that you fully embody that. Because alignment is what makes contentment sustainable, and contentment is what makes fulfillment possible.
Yes. And, you can be fully at peace in this season right now and fully alive to everything God has placed on your heart. You can have them both at the same time. That is the design.
Yes.
And it was always meant for you.
Yes. Not one or the other.
No, both.
Yes.
Understanding the design is not the same as living in it.
No, it is not.
So let's talk about what it actually looks like to develop contentment as a daily practice, not just a decision that you make one time. In Philippians 4, Paul doesn't say he was born content.
No.
He doesn't say it came naturally. He says he learned it. In every state, in abundance and in need. He learned it, which means it was a process. It required practice. It is available to anyone willing to develop and learn it.
A practice.
Yeah.
And I want to show you exactly what that looks like because I sat across from a client not long ago who had done everything right. Hit a major career milestone, multiple financial wins. And she sat down with me and she said, I did not think it was going to feel like this. I thought it was going to feel better.
Now, it sounds like she had arrived and it didn't feel like she was arriving.
Not even close. She told me she thought about money more at this income level than she ever had when they were earning half of what they made now. And underneath all of it, this persistent fear, it was if one thing goes wrong, the whole house of cards is going to collapse.
Wow.
Now, mind you, this is a person who has abundance. She has margin. And when I say margin, so once she pays all her expenses, she still has money left over with more than enough. And that fear was still there. And when we started pulling that thread, where was this thought process actually coming from? Where is this mindset coming from? She traced it all the way back to watching someone close to her experience a financial loss. There was no conversation about it, no explanation. And the story she had written about herself from that experience, at the core of me, I am not disciplined with money. And this was a close relative, okay? A close relative. And so she believed that. That's what started establishing that mindset. So sitting there with me, accomplished, financially stable, doing the work, and she still had that limiting belief.
Even though she had done so much to have a different life and to have been there. I think a lot of us are carrying like a version of that same story. Someone else's experience.
Yes.
Someone else's fear.
Yes.
Written into our mindset and our identity like it belongs there, and it doesn't.
Yes. So that is where we started. 4 practices, and her story runs through all of them. So the first, accept where you actually are. See, she could not see where she was standing because she was looking through a lens that was never hers to begin with. Her whole reference points was stress and lack. And that was the only financial reality she ever watched up close. That's the only thing that she observed. So when peace shows up, when margin shows up, when ease shows up, it feels wrong. It feels like a trap.
And that's more common than we really talk about. Sometimes the work of contentment is not learning to want less. It's learning to recognize what you already have.
Yes.
You cannot build from a starting point you refuse to see clearly.
100%.
Accepting where you actually are is not resignation. It's clarity.
Yes.
And clarity is the entry point to any change, all change. You got to understand it. You got to be able to see it.
The second, give yourself the grace you freely extend to others. Now, she kept calling herself undisciplined at her core. So I started reading back to her out loud the financial goals she had already accomplished. And there were like 8 or 9 of them. She had bought 2 homes, bought a home, sold a home. She had her emergency fund funded.
Wow.
She was able to provide private school for her children. She had her investments going, not only in her 401k, but also outside of her 401k. She had some home improvements that she was able to pay cash for and then replace the fund. And so when I finished, she went quiet.
Quiet. Because the evidence that you spoke to her did not match the verdict, what she had determined for herself. Didn't match. Yeah. Now, you could never look at the list that you spoke over her and called her undisciplined. You couldn't. As you would never call someone you love what you have been calling yourself. The grace you give everyone else, you are allowed to receive that. You cannot build sustainable financial habits from shame. You build them from grace.
Yes. The third, use perspective as an intentional tool. I reflected back everything she had built, and she used the word that actually stopped me. She said she felt disoriented.
Not empty or not ungrateful?
No, disoriented. Because she had arrived somewhere she did not have a map for. She had never seen anyone flow in abundance. It had always been stress and lack. So abundance felt suspicious, and peace felt like a warning sign. And the real practice, was learning to let the evidence of what God had done and is doing in her life override the story her fear kept telling.
Wow. There's a difference between what you see and what God sees.
100%.
When you can hold both, the honest reality of where you are and the spiritual reality of where you are being led, that's where contentment and vision occupy the same space at the same time. Contentment does not require perfect circumstances. It requires a perspective that's bigger than your circumstances.
And so the fourth is steward the season you are actually in, not the one you are building toward. Now, for this one, I asked her, are you financially fulfilled? And she sat with that. She really sat with that. Because her steward identity is her unique pathway to financial fulfillment, not her neighbors, not her parents, not the version of enough that someone she loved described over dinner. Hers. And when she finally let herself answer honestly, the answer was yes.
Yeah. She just had not had permission to receive it. You allowed that for her.
I had to give her space. She had to really figure it out because, again, this is someone who's been working with us for a while, going through the steps, accomplishing her milestones. And it was like, okay, I need another goal. I don't feel stretched. I don't feel challenged. And I'm like, what?
She
You
was
did
doing
the
so
hard
well.
work already. Like,
Yes. Yes. And couldn't receive it for herself.
yeah.
Until.
Right. This is what stewarding your season looks like in practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is asking, what is one decision I can make today that reflects who I actually am and what actually matters to me? And being able to do that and being able to, you know, make the choice and decision, not driven by restlessness, not driven by comparison, but it's a decision made out of wholeness.
Wow. And every time you make that decision out of wholeness, you're practicing contentment.
Yes.
You're building the habit of building from the right, strong foundation. She could visualize what she had done.
Yes.
And she could sit with it and give herself the grace.
Yes.
And permission herself, not just permission from you, but permission herself.
Exactly.
To be able to say that, yes.
Contentment is not just a feeling that you have in a quiet moment of reflection. It shows up in your financial behavior, in the purchases you make, in the ones you pass on, in the goals you set, and why you set them, actually. And so in the plan you build and whether you can actually stay with it. So contentment practice changes how you handle money. Not just someday, but now.
Right now.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Let's speak a little bit about the wisdom from the word. I want to sit in Psalm 16:11 for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, David writes, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there's fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore." Now let me read that again. He said, fullness of joy.
Yes.
I can keep repeating that. Fullness of joy.
Not partial joy, not eventual joy.
Fullness.
Yes.
Fullness. And where's it found? Not in the next milestone, not in the number in the account.
Yes.
It is in his presence, in alignment with the one who already holds and guides you along the path. And then he says, pleasures forevermore, the desires of your heart, the life you are building, the wealth you are working toward, the legacy you feel pulling at you. He's doing it. Pleasures forevermore.
And get this, those are not in conflict with your peace.
They are part of the design. God is not asking you to choose between the fullness of this moment and the fullness of what is ahead. He's offering you both.
Yes.
He is the path to both.
Yes.
And the starting point today in this season, exactly where you are, is his presence. You were always meant to be whole here, right now.
And whole in what's coming.
That's right. Both.
All right, Willa, let's close this out. First, the false choice is a construct. You were never meant to choose between contentment and fulfillment. I don't know why I'm shaking my finger like this, but I guess I'm just trying to drive home the point.
It is important. Hear me.
You don't have to choose between peace and progress. They are not opposites. And the belief that they are, that is what keeps the practice of learning contentment from taking root.
Okay, now second, contentment is a foundation. It is not a ceiling. When you are building your life in Christ, on his word, his teachings, who he says you are, contentment flows from that foundation.
It does.
It's the fruit of building on rock. And as Jesus reminded us in Matthew 7, the house built on rock stands, not because the storm didn't come, but because the foundation held.
Yes. Third, contentment is practice. It has to be learned. And the learning looks like accepting your real starting point, extending yourself the same grace that you would give to others, using perspective as an intentional tool, and stewarding the season you're actually in, one financial decision at a time.
So many of our clients come to financial coaching believing the problem is the numbers. Well, sometimes it is, but often the deeper issue is that the life being funded doesn't actually reflect the person being asked to fund it. When your financial decisions come from a place of alignment, from who you truly are and what you are genuinely called to do, that is when the numbers start moving. That is when the plan actually holds because it's yours and you're building it.
The steward identity is the starting point for a life that actually feels like yours. The four borders of financial fulfillment do not begin with strategy. They begin with alignment because everything else builds on that.
And contentment is not the destination. It is the condition under which you reach your destination.
So if this series moves something in you, if you have been doing the thinking, doing the reflecting, and you are ready to actually do something, the next step is having a real conversation. So book your introductory call at mytfcoach.com. This is a no pressure, no shame conversation about where you are financially, where you want to go. And then we talk about how we can work with you to bring the pieces of your financial puzzle together. And that's it. That is the call.
And if you're not quite ready for that conversation, if you are still in the I need a starting point season, we have a free mini course, Your First Step to Financial Fulfillment. It's exactly that. And it starts right where this series ends with your steward identity. Find it at mytfcoach.com/fulfillment starts here.
So either way, take a step. Don't let this be something you listen to. Let it be something that caused a transformation in your life. Something that changed something.
As always, our end goal is for you to activate the power of your steward identity, putting every piece in place and complete the picture of financial fulfillment that was designed just for you, trusting God, trusting yourself, and trusting the process. So bye for now and continue to tap into wealth and wisdom together.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.